Can't decide and torn between a romantic, comedy, action, or an indie film to watch for the weekend? Well. Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast is your ultimate guide to the latest movies. Join us as we dissect the latest on the blockbusters. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast.
Hello and welcome to GSMC Movie Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Cynthia, and I'm joined here today with my co-host, Keith.
I am Keith.
I am Keith. So you guys don't forget. You guys, we were having some technical difficulties before this, but we got it all handled, and we are here. We are live, ready to go. Keith.
Super excited.
Are you? Your voice sounds
filled with excitement.
How's your week been, Keith?
Pretty good.
Pretty good?
Yeah, last week my car, the check engine light came on my way out to the podcast, and I swapped out the spark plugs, and it's all fixed now. So
no more car troubles.
Cool. Yes, but you are having car troubles.
I am.
Yeah.
See, I know you now. You push it onto me.
I hope not. I would feel pretty bad about that.
Yeah, but it's fine. At least I'm borrowing someone's car at the moment. And my grandma came to visit last weekend, so that was exciting. She came from Phoenix, Arizona.
Would that be tu abuela?
My abuelita, yes.
Abuelita.
Yes, so it was nice because I don't see her often. So it was great.
Where's she from?
Well, originally from Mexico, but she's been living in Phoenix for like the last 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Must have been a weather transition for her.
Well, it was actually a little bit rainy over there. She was saying that Phoenix is a little bit not as wet here in Northern California, but they've been getting some drops over there.
Okay. Is that like a new slang term? Kind of like bangers, drops?
A little bit. I don't know. I just kind of throw it out there.
Oh, okay.
Hoping you guys get it.
Precip. That's the shortened version of precipitation.
Some precips, exactly. I think I'm going to use that one. I'm going to steal that from you, Keith.
You can, yeah.
Yeah, but we're not.
Make me relevant again.
All right, y'all. So we are going to share with you guys our top 2019 favorites. Movies, films, all that good stuff.
And they didn't necessarily have to have come out this last year, though. I think both of yours did, right?
Yes. So I did notice that. So I chose two movies from 2019, and then the ones that Keith chose, they're within the 2-year frame.
2018 and 2017. So
the first one that I highly recommend, if you have not watched it yet, is Joker. That movie is a 10 out of 10 in my book. I went in thinking it was going to be, I don't know. I had my expectations were a little bit all over the place because when I think of Joker, you think of Batman, right?
Yeah.
Automatically. And with Batman, that's more like action film. So when I went in watching the movie, I originally had thought it was going to be some type of action film. But then as the story carried on, I was surprised, but in a good way. And I really loved how in Joker, it put the spotlight on Joker, obviously, and the behind the scenes of how the character came about, and exactly the character development is amazing in this film. And have you watched it, Keith?
I have not.
Yeah.
So what's really sad, so we started doing this podcast in November. When I went and looked through all of the movies that came out in 2019, I realized that I hadn't seen a single movie that came out this year.
Really?
I had not gotten a chance to watch any, which obviously that's going to change in the new year.
Right. But that's your New Year's resolution coming up.
Yeah. Watch more movies that came out this year. Because we've talked about movie trailers. We've talked about things that we've watched from the past. But I just realized that, prior to doing this podcast, I wasn't really, I've always liked movies.
Right.
But this year I just missed out. Last year there was a bunch of good ones that came out, like Annihilation, which I talk about, or we're going to talk about, and then Isle of Dogs came out last year, and I loved that film, but I just didn't see anything that really piqued my interest this year.
Yeah, I watched a few 2019 movies at theaters. It's also because movie theaters charge like so much when you go in. They're like $20 now.
And then Movie Pass, which was a thing, went out of business, and they stopped because I had Movie Pass in 2018. You pay $10 a month or $20 a month, and you get X number of movies for free. Well, at the beginning of 2019, they started going downhill real quick because movie theaters stopped accepting them. So that business actually doesn't even exist anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, now with like streaming services and all these other avenues you can watch movies from, it's no wonder why it's kind of plummeting at this point.
Yeah. Well, and then all the movie theaters around here in California are switching to like a completely different. Now the seats are assigned. You can't just buy like a random seat. And then like if you buy your tickets online, there's a big surcharge for like the online convenience of buying them, which is kind of ridiculous. So movie theaters, you stink.
You stink. No, honestly, I still very much enjoy going to the movies. And Joker, I think I watched that film. It came out October 4th. So in the beginning of October, which is perfect timing for Halloween. I didn't watch that film till I think the very last week of October. And I thought, oh, the theater shouldn't be packed. Everybody had already went and watched it. But no, it was packed. I think I watched it with my boyfriend, and I think we went to 3 movie theaters to finally find one that wasn't.
No way.
Yes.
Was that in San Jose?
Yes, it is in the Bay Area. So
that makes a little more sense, but still, how many weeks after it came out was this?
It was a lot. So 3 weeks, I believe. We watched. So
Would you guys go on a Saturday?
We went in the middle of the week. We went on a Thursday.
No, I don't believe you.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I know, but I mean, critics loved this movie.
I was going to say it got some like late stage momentum where like it first came out and people were into it, but then it felt like a couple weeks later all of a sudden everyone was like, you've got to go see this. Like
my brother's the one who convinced me because I originally, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, another
Batman,
right, another Batman
movie, yeah.
But my brother told me, he's like, no, it's way more in depth. It's really goes into detail about how Joker came and really shines light on mental illness, and I'm going to get into all that right now. So I'm first going to share with you guys the synopsis of the film, just in case you have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good idea.
In Gotham City, mentally troubled comedian Arthur Fleck is disregarded and mistreated by society. He then embarks on a downward spiral of revolution and bloody crime. This path brings him face to face with his alter ego, the Joker. Boom. And this film was directed by Todd Phillips, and this film has actually also been nominated for 4 Golden Globes awards. And the Golden Globes is taking place next month, actually, in the beginning of January. And some of the awards that this film got nominated for was Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, which would go to Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix played Arthur Fleck, aka Joker. And
Joaquin Phoenix, I have to say, best actor for a villain in every movie that I've seen him be the villain in. Like in The Gladiator, he plays that part impeccably. Like I can't imagine any other actor having that part. Everything I see Joaquin Phoenix in, I have absolutely loved.
Well, then you are definitely going to love Joker. His performance in this film is everything, and he absolutely deserves the Golden Globe award for best performance.
Is Golden Globe like not quite Oscar?
I don't believe it's quite Oscar, but it's up there. It's up there.
I think Golden Globe is more like a popularity thing, and then Oscars is based off of like the Academy.
Right.
If I remember correctly. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, I think Oscars is like what you're really aiming for, and then Golden Globes is pretty up there.
Okay, so Golden Globe is like, yeah, thanks. But no thanks.
No, but you still would want it. I mean, I would, if I was an actor, I feel like I would be grateful for any type of award that I was nominated for.
Unless, because they do have awards for people who do things really awfully. So they'll have an award for like best worst performance. And they have like joke
award
ceremonies.
I believe that. And I want to first talk about one of the most defining moments in the film. And I believe that most people who have seen the film can agree with me on this specific scene. And it's the staircase scene. So Joker, he's in his full outfit, hair dyed green, makeup running, and in the outfit, and he's on his way to go onto a TV talk show, and he starts dancing. And I feel this was a very pivotal moment for Joker's character because it transitions from, you know, him being a wannabe stand-up comedian, a failed stand-up comedian at that, to now turning into this alter ego of Joker, and he's finally, I guess in a sense, has let his true self be and set free. So that moment was really stuck in my mind. And I'm going to share with you guys another quote from the film that also stuck to my mind, which is, and this was written in Arthur's notebook. So throughout the film, Arthur Fleck, aka Joker, has a notebook and he's writing his thoughts in this little book. And it goes, "The worst part of having mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't."
Yeah, that's pretty impactful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what Todd Phillips was trying to do with this particular movie is probably similar to what Christopher Nolan was trying to do with Batman. When Christopher Nolan did the Batman Begins, Batman Dark Knight Rises series, he kind of took the superhero genre and said, like, well, what if we made it about like this specific type of person, or this specific type of trauma, or this specific type of idea.
Right.
And so Todd Phillips kind of tried to imitate that with the Joker, and he focused mainly on mental illness because one of the Joker's big motifs is that he is mentally ill, so much so that like in a lot of the other comic books and things like that, like Harley Quinn, you know that character?
Yes.
She's actually his psychologist. That I mean, I think in some canon, she goes through a very traumatic experience, but in other canon, she just falls in love with the Joker. So she's like a psychologist figure. So obviously he's got some sort of mental illness going on. So that's definitely something that's been prevalent in the comic books. And I think that they just really wanted to focus on that for this particular movie.
Mm-hmm. And the bad reviews and the only negativity that this film got is for those viewers who were going into the film expecting it to be some type of action film. So as I said, that was my initial thought too when I first watched the film. I was expecting action, fight scenes, and that's totally not what you get in this film. It's way deeper.
Is there like a bank heist at all or anything like that?
No bank heist. It really is more in the character development of Joker and highlights mental illness. And I feel that there's nowadays more people are talking about mental illness and there's more awareness around the situation. And in the film, it highlights Joker. He's going through severe depression and he also has this condition where he laughs uncontrollably at like the worst times.
Kind of like Tourette's.
Right. So I think that was the main purpose of this film. What Todd Phillips and the writers wanted to highlight was mental illness and how, I feel that it's very relatable to many people. So I highly, highly recommend this film, especially for you, Keith, since you are a fan of Joaquin Phoenix. Again, his performance throughout this film is amazing. Go watch it, y'all. This is one of the most top-rated films of 2019. And on that note, we're going to take our first quick break. And when we come back, Keith is going to share with us his top-rated film.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back GSMC movie podcast. We are talking about our favorite films that we saw in the last year that may or may not have come out this year. Mm-hmm. Both of my picks are movies that came out last year or the year before, so I do apologize. But Cynthia's got the relevant picks. But my first pick that we're going to talk about is Annihilation.
I've never heard of this film, by the way, until...
The movie?
Or the movie, until you wrote it in the show notes. And after watching the trailer, I actually want to go watch it now.
Oh, it's a trip. Okay. So it's directed by Alex Garland. You might know his work from Dredd, which is a super underrated film. It's based off of the video game Judge Dredd. It's actually pretty kind of fun in a trash film kind of way. It's a little over the top. I like it a lot. And then he also did Ex Machina, which is really well regarded critically. Most of my friends have recommended it to me, but I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. So the cast is really interesting. It's primarily composed of women.
Woo!
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like a science fiction thriller action movie. Mm-hmm. And when I first started watching it, I was like, I wonder why, is Natalie Portman going to be in this squad with a bunch of dudes? And it's not. It's a team of mostly women. Actually, it's all women. So Natalie Portman is the main character, Lena. And then Jennifer Jason Leigh is Dr. Ventress. Gina Rodriguez is Anya Torrenson. Tessa Thompson is Josie Roddick. And Tuva Novotny is Cassie Cass Shepard. And Oscar Isaac plays opposite of Natalie Portman as her husband. And his name is Kane in the film. Mm-hmm. So the basic plot, just a quick breakdown, since I'm going to assume most people haven't seen this because it was kind of like an underground thing, not super mainstream. There is an unexplainable alien phenomena that is consuming / restructuring the area around it, centralized around a lighthouse where a comet made initial impact. This slowly expanding area is called the Shimmer. The film centers around a research team attempting to make it to the center of the Shimmer and to analyze and discover what it is, and if it is a thing, what it is that the thing wants.
What's the thing?
I mean, that's a spoiler. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end, because, the interesting thing about this movie is that there is, this weird sense of foreboding mystery to exactly what it is that everybody is experiencing throughout the film. It's not really it's hard to describe exactly what this movie is. Yeah,
that's when I was reading reviews, and after I watched the film or the trailer once, I was confused. I was like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. I just saw bright colors and weird creatures. And that's what many of the critics are saying too. It's trippy.
It's trippy. Super trippy. So it's more of a melding of philosophy and science fiction along with a thriller, because it has moments that are profoundly horrifying. I cannot even begin to describe to you the amount of discomfort and horror that I experienced during the film. It's it's so human, but also so impossible at the same time. The very concept of what the Shimmer is something that is this, basically it's a philosophic idea of the restructuring of life as we know it, right? Or the changing of life as we know it. So the movie kind of poses this question to you, what if the very basis of your understanding of the world, the very basis of the way that you interact with the world could be changed or altered or absorbed or refracted by another force. So it's kind of your classic alien movie, your classic science fiction thing where you've got this external force that's acting in the world that goes beyond the comprehension of the individuals within it, but it incorporates elements like horror and a psychological thriller, because it has this one specific scene where they find a camera and they're watching film on this camera, and it feels kind of like they're watching the Blair Witch Project. I don't know if you're familiar with that film. So the Blair Witch Project is this horror movie that was supposed to look like it was filmed by handheld cameras, so it's supposed to feel super real. And you get that same kind of vibe when they're watching this film. It's creepy.
I don't know if I'd feel so. Would you consider this a little horror? It would spook you a little bit, get a little jump out of you?
It doesn't really have. It has two scenes with kind of like jump scares, if you will, but it's not the highlight of the film, and it only makes you jump because it's so unexpected, but not in the way that it's like, oh,
it's scary.
Right. Yeah. It's not like a horror movie where you're like, don't walk around that corner. Don't walk around that corner. It's like a horror movie where you're like, just turn around. Like, why don't you just turn around? Just walk back out the way you came. And like,
that sense. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, because all of the characters are super relatable. Like, each one of them has their own set of motivations, their own set of beliefs about the world, and all of those things are being brought kind of like into question because of the difficulty of this journey that they're making. So it's like kind of your standard hero's journey that follows Natalie Portman, except for the entire thing is spent in the abyss. So are you familiar with the hero's journey as a film or like literary device? So the hero's journey is a specific set of events that occur within the span of a story, right? So you've got like becoming the chosen one. You have the nadir or the abyss, which is where like you kind of, it's like in Superman when they beat the crap out of Superman and he falls to the bottom of the ocean. You're like, how's he going to do anything? And then like this tiny little ray of light comes in. Like that's your stereotypical abyss. And like the entire movie is in the abyss of the hero's journey. And it doesn't really, well, I don't know. I did not feel that there was resolution at the end. There was more mystery. But like the interesting thing about the film is that it's being told from Natalie Portman's perspective, from her character Lena's perspective. So it opens up and she's talking to a gentleman and you as the viewer have no idea what's going on. And then she gets into the story, and like there are times where this person she's talking to will interrupt her to try and figure out what's happening, and like ultimately you as the viewer are like, yes, time for explanation. And then Portman just like Lena just says like, I don't know. So it's like this constant like cat and mouse game of like you as the viewer almost figuring out what's happening and feeling like you come to some sort of solid conclusion, only to be like denied that resolution.
Is this a film you'd say you have to watch from beginning to end? You know what, some movies you can kind of play in the background and you can keep up with the story. Is this too complicated?
No, you're not going to be, well, okay. So it's not that it's too complex to do that, because you absolutely could, because it's not like each plot point is hard to follow. Like it's got your it's a basic movie, right? The structure isn't anything like new. What they do within that structure is what's kind of new, the way that they did the writing, the storytelling, right? So I would not recommend putting this on unless you are going to sit down and really watch it. Because you're not going to get everything out of it that you probably could unless you sit down to really like digest it. Because it's a lot. Yeah. Like you mentioned specifically in the show notes. So like you read something about, or you wrote something about the test screening. So tell us about that a little bit. So
I was looking up some reviews and what the studio were saying about the film originally. In the original test screening, Paramount became concerned that the film was too intellectual and too complex, and they actually demanded changes to make it appeal to a wider audience, and actually as well wanted to change Natalie Portman's character a little bit and also change the ending. So do you think they should have changed the ending a little bit to appeal to a wider audience? So
I think that I saw the theatrical cut, right? Upon hearing that, I'm super interested in what the director's cut is, because the film is definitely, like, I wouldn't say it's one of those movies where it's like, oh, you have to be into academics to like it, you know? Like, there's movies out there that I wouldn't recommend to anyone unless they are like explicitly interested in the art of filmmaking. But this is not one of those movies. I'd say that it is generally accessible, and whatever cuts they made to it are actually, they did their job. So like the movie is intellectual, but it could also just be watched as like a science fiction thriller, and it would still be good. And I think that, like, specifically noting that Portman's character needed to be more relatable, that makes sense to me, knowing what I know about the film. And I think that once you watch it, which seriously, you have to watch this movie.
Well, it's in this podcast. I mean, then we must go watch it.
Yeah, no, I can't recommend this movie enough. This movie legitimately changed my year with how like much it made me think. But it does it in a really subtle way. It's not like, so you remember Inception, right?
Yes.
And it was like, Inception was like, oh, look at how smart we are. Look, we're in a dream within a dream. Like, it was trying to be this super intellectual movie. This movie is not that self-indulgent. It doesn't do that at all. There's not a single point in time in this movie where you're like, they just added that to make it feel trippy. Like, no, every element of the movie is designed and executed in a way to make you specifically interact with the movie in that particular way. And it is executed, I mean, almost flawlessly. I would give this movie like a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
It's really, really good. I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you like science fiction, you got to watch it. If you like philosophy, if you like movies that make you think, you have to watch it. And if you just generally like, I don't know, Natalie Portman or Oscar Isaac, you should watch it. They're both amazing in this film. And the ending, like, I wish that I could get into a specific breakdown of the film because there's just so many scenes. But if I were to tell you any of the scenes, I feel like I'd spoil the whole film for you. Because part of the experience of the film is going through this journey of the unknown that's like literally happening like right in someone's backyard, which is the way that it's kind of phrased. Because the meteor or the comet, whatever it is that falls, right, it lodges itself inside of a lighthouse, and that lighthouse is on like the East Coast and like right just outside of Baltimore or something, which is why Natalie Portman and her team go into it at all, because it's so close to civilization. It's this slowly expanding bubble of weirdness that they get like no readings out of. They have no information on it, and everyone who they've sent into it dies or doesn't return. So
one way in, but no way out.
Yeah, exactly.
That was actually the tagline. I didn't make that up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the tagline of the film.
Yeah, I remember seeing trailers for it and being like, because this came out around the same time last year as the movie with Amy Adams that I can't remember what it's called. It's the one that it focuses more on like the language barrier that would occur between aliens and humans. Arrival. It's called Arrival. So they both came out in like a similar time window, and they're both these like highly touted intellectual science fiction psychological thriller films. And I just thought like, oh, this is another one of those things, but with Natalie Portman instead. This is not another one of those things. It's definitely unlike anything that you've ever seen before, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah, the director did an incredible job, and the writers were really, really good. So, did you have anything else to add? No,
I'm very intrigued. I love thrillers, and this psychological thriller is definitely calling my attention. And I like Natalie Portman.
She's great.
I'm interested to see Gina Rodriguez in this.
Yeah.
That was a little weird
She's
to me.
definitely the weirdest one on the cast list.
I was like, where did she come from? Because I know her through Jane the Virgin, which is a Netflix show.
She's also in Fast and Furious, isn't she?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm interested to see because
she's
Gina
usually
Rodriguez,
an action flick girl,
right?
Yeah,
and like more just like light comedy or
yeah.
So I'm interested to see.
She does a great job in this movie.
Yeah,
no,
every
actress does a really
I
good
enjoyed.
job.
I liked both recommendations that you made.
Just from the trailers.
From the trailers. So no, I think this is a film I'll definitely go watch. Maybe we'll talk about it
sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, and then we will come back with much more lighthearted topic for Cynthia's next pick.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
and welcome back to GSMC Movie Podcast. And just as Keith mentioned before the break, we're going to move on to a lighter note. And this is for sure fan favorite for adults and kids, but I believe it's mainly for adults.
Yes.
And that's Toy Story 4.
Yeah, you thought that they were done making you cry like a baby after Toy Story 3, but no, they had more for us.
Yeah, and this movie hit theaters in June of 2019. And the funny thing about this is when I went to the theaters to go watch this film, I'd say about 80 to 90% of the audience were people my age, mid-20s, adults. And there weren't that many kids. So I just thought it was pretty comical because I'm like, it's a kid's movie. So you assume there's going to be a lot of kids. And there weren't. It was mainly adults. So yeah. I like to see that. And I just thought this film is super cute. I mean, if you have little ones or even if you don't, this is definitely a movie you have to go watch. And the film was directed by Josh Cooley. And of course, the voices of Woody and Buzz have been the same since the first Toy Story film in 1995. So Tom Hanks plays Woody and Tim Allen plays Buzz Lightyear.
Yes, I am just thankful that they didn't let Tim Allen's recent fall from the good graces of the general media prevent him from coming back for this role. Because I can't imagine anyone else being Buzz Lightyear.
I know, I really can't. And I actually was watching an interview with both Tom Hanks and Tim Allen regarding the film. And it's crazy to me because you're looking at these two men, right? They've aged or whatnot, but their voices sound exactly the same as the characters. And it's crazy. I'm looking at Tom Hanks. I'm like, he's actually Woody, but he's this 50-year-old man. It's so funny. And I feel like they definitely, I don't know if they're going to be making future Toy Story, like a Toy Story 5 or anything, but they have to keep both Tom Hanks and Tim Allen.
I'm sure that they'll keep them as long as they can. Yeah.
Right, because they've been the same voices for all of the Toy Story films. So I'm like, you can't mess that up.
Like 15, 20, like over 20 years.
Right. 1995. That's when the first Toy Story came. Right. And I'm going to share with you guys the storyline just in case you haven't seen the film and you're thinking about taking your kids to go watch it. So it goes. Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and the rest of the gang embark on a road trip with Bonnie and a new toy named Forky. The adventurous journey turns into an unexpected reunion as Woody's slight detour leads him to his long-lost friend Bo Peep. As Woody and Bo discuss the old days, they soon start to realize that they're two worlds apart when it comes to what they want from life as a toy. Which is so funny because I'm like, that's pretty relatable to humans, right?
Really. Yeah. This person who I used to who I used to know so well, and I'm so excited to see them, and then you come together and it's like, hey, we're just not the same people
right,
anymore.
Like in totally different places. So Bo Peep, she was in the very first Toy Story with Woody and Buzz Lightyear, and throughout the movies,
I feel like she
gets lost. Yeah, but she gets lost. So essentially, they go and they run into her, and she's like, "I'm a lost toy," but it's like the greatest thing ever being a lost toy because you have all the. It's in a sense, it's like you're free to do what you want instead of having an owner. So it's really interesting. I loved the new toys and their personalities, and there were some funny, memorable moments, and I don't want to ruin any because again, I just feel like you just need to go watch it. And it's a very cute film. And I loved Forky. Forky was my favorite, which is the little spork.
I was just going to say Forky is not a fork. He's a spork.
A spork. Yeah. Let's get it correct.
That's sporking ridiculous.
There's a dad joke, y'all. There's a dad joke.
There's at least 1 to 2 per episode.
And
gotta hit my quota.
Yeah, exactly. I know this was your first one today. And Toy Story 4 was nominated for 1 Golden Globe Award for Best Animated Motion Picture. And Lion King as well was up for the exact same award. Yeah. But I haven't watched Lion King, to be honest, so I can't
I imagine that Toy Story is probably the better of the two because Toy Story isn't playing around.
Toy Story... There's another one, you guys. That's 2 right there in like a minute. And something interesting when I was looking up the film is that they filmed the location in Bay Area at the Pixar Animation Studios, located in Emeryville, California. So
that must have been a lot of buzz when they were filming.
Oh my God, we need to stop right now. We are 3 right now, 3 within 2 minutes.
I feel like I'm just like light years away from you with these jokes.
You guys, I can't handle it right now. I cannot handle this. Woo! Okay, you guys, we're gonna move on to the next film. So, Toy Story 4, Best Animated Picture, in my opinion, for 2019. Go watch it. Go take your little ones, even if you don't have kids.
Real quick before we move on.
Yes.
Of the 4 movies, power rank Toy Stories 1 through 4 right now.
That's so rough. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna go with 1 because that's the original. 1. I'm gonna go with 4, 3, and then 2.
Wow.
1, 4, 3, 2.
Isn't 2 the one where they find
Jesse?
Yeah. Okay. See, I'd go.
It's kind of hard to rank.
I'd go 1, 2, 3. Honestly,
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. The first one's amazing. The second one is incredible, and the third one's also amazing.
I say, okay, I can't rank them because they each are so different.
Yeah, they're good in their own particular way.
Right. So it's kind of hard to rank them. So just disregard what I just said. Okay,
Yeah.
They're all great, but definitely
They all really rope you in.
Right. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's 5, you guys. Are you guys keeping track? That's 5 dad jokes in less than 5 minutes. So Toy Story 4, 2019 pick right there.
Yeah.
Moving on, Keith is going to introduce to us his second top 2019 film.
So we're back into the sad boy film genre is what I'll call it.
Sad boy.
Because mostly sad boys watch stuff like this. I'm not a sad boy. I just really like good movies. This is The Killing of a Sacred Deer, is another movie that I saw this year. So, Yorgos Lanthimos directed it. He's pretty well known for The Lobster and The Favorite, which came out in 2019 or 2018. I can't remember off the top of my head. His films are highly recommended by a lot of movie critics. The cast is Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman, Barry Keoghan, Raffi Cassidy, Sonny Suljic, Alicia Silverstone, and Bill Camp. Bill Camp. And so the basic plot. A doctor named Stephen with a family of 2 children and a wife are plagued by the seemingly supernatural powers of a young man, Martin, whose father died during a surgery performed by the main character, Stephen. Martin terrorizes the family with mysterious illnesses and the threat of murder for the sake of balance between the death of Martin's father and family and Stephen's family.
So let me just say, after watching this trailer, I was quite disturbed. Like, the trailer's very weird to me because throughout the entire 2-minute trailer, the girl is singing to one of Ellie Goulding's songs, and the way she's singing it, it's like very creepy. It just, it made my skin crawl. Like, I had to pause it because I'm like, I feel like something's going to jump out and scare me. Like, I was waiting for that moment, you know?
I had to do that with the movie. I could, so I'm just going to say this up front, right? Yorgos Lanthimos, when he has total creative control, you're going to have to take his movies in a couple of sittings unless you know what you're getting yourself into. Like, The Lobster, amazing movie. I had to watch it in 2 sittings because it was just so much. I couldn't imagine sitting in the movie theater for the whole thing because it's just a lot. And this movie is exactly like that. The Killing of a Sacred Deer is like, Annihilation is horrifying. This is horrifying in a much more human way because instead of dealing with an alien, you're dealing with something that's even less concrete because the whole time throughout the movie, the main antagonist, you're like, how does he do this? And there's zero explanation. Whereas in like Annihilation, there's an explanation of like, well, it's an alien, so we don't know. But like this one, it's like literally, we have no idea. And like, it's not advertised as a horror film, but it's really, really horrifying.
Horrifying in the sense that it's gory, or horrifying
No, it's not gory at all.
Things pop up kind of unexpectedly.
It's okay. So the basic concept of like, so there's a movie called It Follows, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a horror movie that did really well. And the concept is that you get this ghost or demon thing that follows you after you have sex with somebody. So you have intercourse with this person. You have intercourse with this person, and then now they've passed this demon thing on to you, and it basically just slowly follows you everywhere you go. You're the only one that can see it, and its goal is to kill you. So it takes the specific trope within the horror genre of this thing that no one else can see, that is terrifying, that you have to run away from, but you can never escape, and focuses on that. This movie kind of does something similar, where it basically takes this concept of like balance or justice, and then like puts the power of giving balance and justice to the world into this like boy's abilities, I guess. Martin's abilities, the main antagonist. And so like you're being terrorized, the main character, Colin Farrell's character, is being terrorized throughout the film, not only by like Martin, but also by this this force that is unable to be influenced and unable to be stopped without like this very specific thing happening. And that's part of what makes it so terrifying, is it's like you can't reason your way out of this, you can't fight your way out of this. And like even Martin, the main antagonist, says like he would stop it if he could, but he can't stop it. So it's almost like this like giant universe power that's being put through in a specific situation with this boy. And so it's just horrifying, because it's kind of it's like watching water go through your hands, and like if all of the water falls out of your hands, then you die. So it's like watching water go through your hands and knowing that like you're going to die at the end of it. So it's like this, it's just really, really dark and really horrifying, and like,
am I able to watch this alone? Because
yes.
I get scared.
Absolutely.
I get scared very easily.
No,
like,
I watched it alone.
That's one thing you guys are going to learn about me. I do not like horror films. I do not like scary movies. I don't like things popping out at me. I am a scaredy cat. I will have nightmares. So it's good to know that I can watch this by myself.
Yeah,
but
it's much more of like a psychological horror movie than it is an actual horror movie. Like you're not going to walk away from this and think like, oh my God, what if this happens to me? You're going to walk away from this and think like, there's something weird about the universe. There's something weird about how I interact with other people. Like that's what this director does. Like when I watched The Lobster, after I was done watching it, it made me feel odd about every interaction I had with anybody, because the way that the point of the movie is to like question how like contractual interactions are, how like how it starts with a T. Transactional. It's basically the point of the movie is to talk about how transactional, like I give you this, you give me that. I give you this, you give me that. Like that's one of the main points of the movie, and the dialogue is like, you've received this thing from me, so I will receive this thing from you. But he does that with like romance and love, so it just feels really weird. It's also equally horrifying and existentially like full of existential dread. So I highly recommend The Lobster too. But again, they're both really tough movies to get through. So
I'm assuming, just like in The Lobster, how there was no lobster in that film, there's going to be no deer in this one, is there? No, there's no deer. So the sacred deer, I believe, is a reference to Athena. Athena is the goddess of knowledge in Greek mythology. And she has, and I think she's also the goddess of the hunt. And she has the sacred deer. And I think there's a specific mythology surrounding those, or like metaphor or some sort of interpretation. So I think that's what it's supposed to be. And I think that like something in the film is supposed to symbolize the sacred deer. But like if you guys watch it, let me know in the comments if you agree. I'm sure that there are plenty of people who've written essays or theses even about this film. Like it is profoundly interesting. I want to quickly share with you, Keith, and the listeners, a disturbing fact that I found out about this film. So there is a scene in the film. I believe it opens up. Scenes. Yeah. The heart surgery scenes in the film are real, you guys. They were filmed during an operation on a real patient who was undergoing quadruple bypass surgery, which Colin Farrell attended. That is disgusting, okay? It's not disgusting. It's beautiful. In the film, it is beautiful. Is it? Because oh my gosh. When I read that, it's perfect. When I read that, I can't do like blood, gory things. That's so the goriest part of the whole film, I promise. I can't believe that's a real scene. I thought this was supposed to be fake, a movie.
It is a movie. It's just that, just like Kubrick, this director is not interested in anyone doing anything fake.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was pretty disturbing when I found it out. So when I do watch this film, I have to mentally prepare myself for that scene. But you said plural, so scenes.
You need to mentally prepare yourself for the whole movie.
Oh my goodness.
Do not go into this movie blind. Don't read the synopsis because it will spoil it for you. But like, definitely watch the trailer. Get in the headspace as best as you can, and then like sit down and just be prepared to have like your world rocked, because it's an incredible movie. Yeah. But I think on that note, we're gonna call it an episode, guys. Mm-hmm. We appreciate you joining us as we talked about 4 of our favorite movies from 2019. So we had The Joker and Toy Story 4, which came out this year, both highly recommended by Cynthia. Annihilation, which came out last year, directed by Todd Phillips, and then Killing of a Sacred Deer, which was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Both highly recommended by Keith. Cynthia liked the trailers. So, check them out. Talk about it in the comments.
Let us know if you do watch these films and how Keith said. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and then watch it. Give us a good review, subscribe, like, all that jazz. And thanks for joining us for this week. You guys have a good week and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, too.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.